Hey people, get ready to crush everyday TOEFL iBT tests for all modules and make your dreams come true. I'm your motivator and I'll be guiding you through the test prep videos. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe or you'll be missing out on some serious preparation.
Do you prefer making detailed plans or being spontaneous? Explain. Begin speaking now.
I prefer making detailed plans because it is good for me. When I make plans, I can know what I will do next and I don't forget things. For example, last semester I made a plan for my exams and I studied every day. I think it helped me get better grades. Without plans, I feel confused and I waste time. Sometimes I don't know what to do first. So I think plans are very important for students like me. Also, my parents always tell me to make plans. I agree with them because planning makes my life easier and I feel less stress.
Personally, I strongly prefer making detailed plans over being spontaneous. The main reason is that planning helps me manage my time more efficiently. For instance, during final exams last year, I created a detailed study schedule that broke down each subject into daily review sessions. As a result, I was able to cover all the material without feeling overwhelmed. In addition, having a plan reduces unnecessary stress. When I know exactly what needs to be done and when, I feel more confident and in control. On the other hand, being spontaneous can sometimes lead to poor decisions and missed deadlines. Overall, detailed planning allows me to achieve my goals more consistently and gives me peace of mind.
I'm a firm believer in making detailed plans, primarily because structure enables me to maximize both productivity and personal satisfaction. To illustrate, when I was organizing a volunteer event at my university last spring, I drafted a comprehensive timeline that covered everything from recruiting participants to securing a venue. This meticulous approach allowed our team to anticipate potential obstacles and address them proactively, ultimately resulting in a highly successful event. Beyond practical benefits, planning also provides psychological comfort. Knowing that I have a clear roadmap significantly reduces my anxiety and frees up mental energy for creative thinking. While I acknowledge that spontaneity can occasionally lead to exciting and unexpected experiences, I find that a well-structured plan offers the flexibility to adapt while still maintaining a sense of direction and purpose.
Beginning fall semester, the university library will implement a new online reservation system for group study rooms. Under the current policy, students may use study rooms on a first-come, first-served basis. However, starting September 1st, all study rooms must be reserved at least 24 hours in advance through the university's student portal. Each reservation will be limited to a maximum of 2 hours per group per day. The administration believes this change will ensure fairer access to study spaces and reduce conflicts between student groups competing for rooms during peak hours. Two students, Lisa and Mark, discuss the announcement outside the library. Lisa strongly supports the new policy, while Mark has some concerns. Lisa believes the new reservation policy is an excellent change. She argues that the current first-come, first-served system is unfair because the same groups of students camp out early and monopolize the rooms every day, leaving other students with no chance. She also points out that the 2-hour limit will encourage students to use their time more productively rather than occupying rooms all afternoon for casual socializing. The woman expresses her opinion about the new study room reservation policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion. Begin speaking now.
The university will change the study room policy. Students must reserve rooms online before they use them. The woman in the conversation thinks this is a good idea. She says that now some students always take the rooms early in the morning and other students cannot use them. She thinks this is not fair. Also, she talks about the 2-hour limit. She says students will use time better because they cannot stay very long. Before, some students just sit in the rooms and talk with friends all day. So she agrees with the new policy because it will be more fair for everyone.
According to the university announcement, a new reservation system will be introduced for library study rooms starting in the fall. Students will need to book rooms at least 24 hours ahead through the student portal, with a 2-hour maximum per group. The woman strongly supports this policy change for 2 main reasons. First, she argues that the current first-come, first-served approach is unfair because certain groups of students arrive early and dominate the rooms every day, which prevents other students from accessing them. Second, she appreciates the 2-hour time limit because she believes it will motivate students to use the rooms more productively instead of spending entire afternoons socializing. Overall, she feels the new system will create a more equitable environment for all students.
The university has announced that starting in the fall semester, library study rooms will transition from a first-come, first-served system to a mandatory online reservation model. Students will be required to book rooms 24 hours in advance, with each group limited to 2 hours per day. The woman in the conversation wholeheartedly endorses this policy shift, offering 2 compelling reasons. Her primary argument is that the existing system disproportionately benefits students who can arrive early, effectively monopolizing the rooms and denying access to others. She views the reservation system as a far more equitable solution. Additionally, she highlights the 2-hour cap as a mechanism that will encourage more productive use of the spaces, noting that under the current arrangement, some students occupy rooms for extended periods merely to socialize rather than study. In her view, these changes will foster both fairness and academic focus across the student body.
Refraction is the bending of light as it passes from one transparent medium into another of different optical density. When light travels from a less dense medium, such as air, into a denser medium, such as water or glass, it slows down and bends toward the normal, an imaginary line perpendicular to the surface at the point of entry. Conversely, light speeds up and bends away from the normal when moving into a less dense medium. The degree of bending depends on the refractive indices of the 2 media and is governed by Snell's law, which relates the angles of incidence and refraction to these indices. Professor lectures about refraction with a specific real-world example involving a straw appearing bent in a glass of water. The professor describes how placing a straight straw into a glass of water makes it appear bent or broken at the water's surface. She explains that light reflecting off the submerged portion of the straw slows down and changes direction as it exits the water and enters the air, reaching our eyes at an altered angle. She emphasizes that the straw is not actually bent. Our brain interprets the refracted light rays as though they traveled in a straight line, creating the visual illusion. Using the example from the lecture, explain the concept of refraction as described in the reading. Begin speaking now.
The reading says refraction is when light bends going through different materials. The professor talks about a straw and water. The straw looks bent because the light changes when it goes from water to air. The light bends so our eyes think the straw is not straight. It's because the water is more dense than the air, so the light moves different.
According to the reading, refraction occurs when light bends as it passes between two media with different densities. Snell's law describes how the angle of bending depends on the refractive indices. In the lecture, the professor uses the example of a straw in a glass of water. The straw appears bent at the surface because light coming from the submerged part slows down and changes direction when it moves from the denser water into the less dense air. Our brain assumes light travels in a straight line, so we perceive the straw as broken, even though it is actually straight.
The reading defines refraction as the bending of light when it transitions between two transparent media of different optical densities. It notes that light bends toward the normal when entering a denser medium and away from the normal when entering a less dense one, with the degree of bending governed by Snell's law. The professor illustrates this concept with a vivid everyday example, a straw placed in a glass of water. She explains that the submerged portion of the straw appears bent or displaced at the water's surface because light reflecting off that portion slows down and changes direction as it passes from the denser water into the less dense air. Because our brains assume light travels in straight lines, we misinterpret the altered path and perceive the straw as broken. This example perfectly demonstrates how differences in refractive index between two media produce the visual distortion described in the reading.
Professor lectures about two key properties of black holes in an introductory astronomy course, the event horizon and gravitational time dilation. The professor explains that the event horizon is the boundary around a black hole beyond which nothing, not even light, can escape, effectively making the interior invisible to outside observers. She then discusses gravitational time dilation, noting that clocks near a black hole tick measurably slower compared to clocks far away, a prediction confirmed by Einstein's general relativity. She uses the example of a hypothetical astronaut approaching a black hole. To a distant observer, the astronaut appears to slow down and freeze at the event horizon, while the astronaut herself would perceive time passing normally as she crosses it. Using points and examples from the lecture, explain two important properties of black holes. Begin speaking now.
The professor talks about black holes. One property is the event horizon. Nothing can escape from it, not even light. The second property is time goes slower near a black hole. She gives an example of an astronaut going to a black hole. The person watching far away sees the astronaut stop moving, but the astronaut feels normal time. These are important things about black holes.
In the lecture, the professor describes two key properties of black holes. The first is the event horizon, which is the boundary around a black hole where gravity is so strong that nothing can escape, including light. That is why we cannot see inside a black hole. The second property is gravitational time dilation. Time passes more slowly near a black hole compared to far away. The professor gives the example of an astronaut approaching a black hole. A distant observer would see the astronaut slow down and appear to freeze at the event horizon, but the astronaut herself would experience time normally. Both properties come from Einstein's theory of general relativity.
The professor highlights two fundamental properties of black holes. The first is the event horizon, the critical boundary surrounding a black hole beyond which the gravitational pull is so intense that nothing, not even photons of light, can escape. This renders the black hole's interior completely unobservable to any outside viewer and is what gives black holes their characteristic blackness. The second property is gravitational time dilation, a consequence of Einstein's general relativity. Near a black hole's immense gravitational field, the passage of time slows dramatically relative to regions farther away. The professor illustrates this with a thought experiment. If an astronaut were to approach the event horizon, a distant observer would watch her movements progressively slow until she appeared frozen at the boundary. However, from the astronaut's own frame of reference, time would continue to pass normally as she crossed the horizon. Together, these two properties reveal how black holes warp both space and time in extreme ways.
Hey people, how was your test? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or you'll be missing out on some serious fun. See you tomorrow!